Hey guys, good to see you again. Thought I'd tune back in, and told y'all in the previous video that we were going to discuss some of the projects and some of the assignments we were going to have coming up. The way we're going to be doing projects is I'm going to be giving you, or assignments in this class, I'm going to be giving you 2 projects that you are to complete individually, and that is going to sum up the rest of your year for me. And I've tried to create these projects in a way that kind of best caters each of your own personal abilities and interest. And I'll also have this in the form of some documents that I'm going to put online, and I'm going to do like an outline of these ideas. That way you can kind of look and see what expectations are for each of these. But I'm going to kind of run through what my plans are for right now. Now, some of you may come up with something neat and something different that I haven't thought of. And if that's the case, shoot me an email. Let me know. Say, hey, I got this cool idea, and I would really like to do this instead. And I would definitely consider it. But I do need you to give me like a thorough explanation of what that is. You can't just say, hey, I want to make this thing and then leave it at that. Definitely need to put some thought in behind what that looks like and how you're going to turn it in and how you're going to make it meet the spirit of the project. Like always, I'm in my backyard right now, so you may hear birds squeaking in the background. Don't mind that. So the first of the 2 projects that I'm going to make you kind of like have to complete on a mandatory basis is what I'm calling my quarantine track. And basically what I'm wanting you to do here is I want you to kind of document this time. Some of you may have already started this, some of you may not have. Depends on, I guess what your interests are. But what I'm wanting you to do is I'm wanting you to kind of document this whole experience for you. Even though we're starting a little later than like day 1, I still think you're going to be coming up with really neat experiences that future generations or even your friends, your experience may be different from a friend, that you could put out. One day you're going to be sitting at the kitchen table and your kids are going to come in and tell you about this really crazy thing that they're going to know if you heard about in history class called the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. And you're going to be like, hey, I lived through that. Check out this video I saved on my YouTube. And so you never know. This may be something that benefits you so much later in life you almost forget about it. You never know. Sometimes I find random notebooks and stuff from when I was in college or high school, and then I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of helpful for now. So it happens. But what I want you to do is I want you to document this experience and the changes that it's made in your life. I'm not worried about the world at large here. I'm talking about this is different for your experience. So let's talk about like how this experience has been different for you. Those of you that are really into photography, I'm open to like a photo journal. And in the past, we've done a thing where I've had you take 30 photos and explain those photos. And it's really similar to what you'll be doing here. So if your photo is your thing, then you'll want to follow that track. I'm going to have a video journal. If you want to sit down in front of the camera like I'm doing right now and kind of tell your story, that's fine. I'm kind of thinking in the terms of like reality TV show, when they pull them aside and the person's like really telling about this thing that happened to them. And maybe it's like, 3 times a week you sit down and record like this one very like really specific thing that happened to you that week or that day, and you really want to tell about that thing because you think that thing is really relevant. I'm looking for stuff like that. And in the end, what you would do is you would turn this into one documentary, and you would put all the clips together, maybe add a little narration or some typing to say what day it was or something like that, and boom, you have finished. But there's more on that I'm going to put in that little document as well. Also, there's some pretty cool video competitions out there where people are asking people to make videos like this, and I can post a link to that on Echo as well for you to look at. Another thing that I know a lot of people do is more graphic design type stuff. So you can make a graphic journal. For some of you, that graphic journal may be illustrative. Think like a comic book. Maybe you make a comic strip or comic book about your experience. And that experience can, borderline on funny, it can be serious, it can be scary, but at the same time, I want it to be honest. So maybe you dramatize the things that are happening around you and kind of put a fun spin on them and make a comic book out of it. I think that would be a really cool idea. I mean, you can use anything from paper and pencil to Adobe Illustrator if you have that, or Photoshop. Some of you have Wacom tablets of your own. I mean, so you could get as creative with that if you want to. You could even use Bitmojis and tell your story through Bitmoji for all I care. just do something neat that kind of, explains what's going on right now in the world. Some of you use Illustrator for different methods. You may use it to make posters and info and PSAs. And I'm thinking a PSA would be pretty cool. You would have to make a series of these. It would be like, I'm thinking in the neighborhood of like 5 PSAs where you make a poster that informs the public about, maybe how to wash your hands or like how not to panic buy, stuff like that. I think that would be really cool. And you can be as creative at that as you want to. And, think propaganda type stuff, like, don't think in terms of I have to do a word for word explanation. It could be something as like a really like, I don't know, artsy up toilet paper roll that you've done something with that kind of tells its own story. So, be creative with that, have fun with it. Another thing that you can do for those of you that don't like sitting in front of a camera but also think you have a cool story to tell, you can do a podcast. I love listening to podcasts. They're one of my favorite things to listen to. Several of you probably came in my classroom during a break or something and I'm in there just listening to my podcast. So yeah, you could record a podcast. And so like I'm thinking on that is you could kind of do it in the way of the video journal, but you could also do it a little different. If you want to sit down with family members and interview family members, or maybe you want to call a friend on the phone and record that phone call and you want to have that interview in your podcast, I'm cool with that. So if you want to do a podcast, if you've never listened to a podcast before and you're curious about how this would look, you can get on like My American Life, or This American Life is a podcast I really like listening to, and it's kind of fun and tells crazy stories. You can check that out and maybe you find a new addiction while you're at it. The last version of this project I have is web journals. This won't be for everyone because not everyone has access to reliable internet, but some of you that have like Esri accounts or use story maps, you can use a story map to kind of tell the story of how this happened. And maybe you want to talk about where you've been throughout this process. Where have you been stuck? Where has the virus moved around you? If you go the story map route, I do want a map involved, but most of you that know what story maps are, that shouldn't be a problem. I don't want you to try to learn anything that's going to make it's more complicated, but if you know story maps and you've played with it, this could be a cool way of telling that story. The last way of doing a web journal is an Adobe Spark web page. Those of you that had my class last year, you used Adobe Spark to actually keep up with your journals, and those are pretty handy because you can add picture and video, and I'm going to make that requirement that there is some picture or video included in that, but they don't have to be really polished stuff like I'm going to expect from the photo or video journal, just raw video or raw photo. But you could also keep a journal and tell your story in that web page, and you would just share that link with me just like you would the story map, and that's how you would get your assignment. Your assignment to me is sharing that link. This has been a really quick overview of what I'm looking for. Like I said, I'm going to put out a document that also has all these things outlined and the expectations for each of these things. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me or text me or however you can get a hold of me. And I'll try to answer all those questions. And like I said, if internet is something that is difficult for you, you could probably go the more, illustrative PSA route, or if you want to make your comic book or, make a poster, those things don't have to be done on a computer. Your video journal and photo journal as well, you can do that on your phone or on your computer. Or even audio you can do on your phone or your computer. And then I will find a way for you to turn those things into me. I'll work on that, and we'll work with your parents on seeing how you can get that stuff turned into me. But the only one that I could see being a real probably no to if you don't have reliable internet is like the web journal. But that's fine. Like you're just picking one of these, and you're going to do a high quality version of one of these to the best of your ability, and that's what I'm going to be grading you on. Okay, and I'll set expectations, like an end start time on this. But this is really something that's kind of easy. I mean, it's asking you to maybe take a picture, record a video journal like 3 times a week, or maybe if you're sitting at the house just drawing, maybe draw a comic book telling your story. So, I mean, this is something that I feel like I'm not trying to add anything else to your plate. This is more things that you're kind of doing just to kill time, but also I think could serve a very important function in society and showing and telling our stories. As always, I hope you're staying safe, and until next time, see you guys.